もう一緒には行かない方がいいかもしれないね。さよなら。
ファリン。リーサ。食われたんだ。ドラゴンの腹の中で魔法が。
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to Paws On Animation and Paws On Netflix segment.
Today we're covering one of Netflix's new and now ongoing anime, Delicious in Dungeon or Dungeon Meshi.
Now this anime just started only a couple of months ago, but it's gained a huge fan base that's been growing with each new weekly episode. So it's time we finally talk about it on here. We covered on my channel, we did
a first impressions.
Yes,
based on the
thank you.
first
Like
view.
not so far, but yes, first impressions. So if you want to take a look at that, you can as well. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, notification for this and future podcasts from all the pause videos.
Now this is based on a Japanese manga series written and illustrated by Ryoko Kui. It's an adventure, cooking, and fantasy comedy. Imagine that being a combination.
Right.
It has 14 volumes, and it actually just recently ended. It ran from February of 2014 to September of 2023.
Oh, wow. And I actually do remember we read the information in the first impressions video. It's just amazing that now it's getting an anime and I was acting like it's still going. I guess it's like Demon Slayer.
Now it's running pretty long right now. We just finished episode 20 or 21.
At the time of this recording.
So we're thinking it's going to run maybe 23 to 24 episodes. And
right.
So it's running much longer than we expected to.
Right. And we don't know if this is the entire series or is it going to be more than one season.
It's released one episode a week and it originally began January 4th of this year. And the anime itself is written by Kimiko Ueno. So now you can binge.
Oh, there's more than a couple.
It's there.
Oh, it's been more than a couple months. Sorry about that.
So of course this is a fantasy world, and the story details the travels of this group through what's called a dungeon and its environments, traps, and the monsters, looking for the sister of one of the group who's been eaten by a dragon.
Yes, and as it goes along, they have to find ways to get food, find shelter, make sure they don't get sick and everything. And that actually ends up being one of the most unique ideas for a show. Is that usually they go through a dungeon, they have to defeat the monster, get the treasure, get out. But this one comes up with the idea of, well, what if you eat the monster in the dungeon? It's already food. Cook that and settle in the dungeon as a safe place and eat the monster, and then everything you need is in one place. And not just cook the monster, do like Food Wars and cook into little gourmet meals with little seasonings and fine tuning and everything.
Now in the beginning, it was really heavy on the cooking, and that was part of the joy of watching like the first 6 episodes at least. They came up with these creative ways of making them, and they would explain in detail the seasonings they were adding, how to prepare it, why you couldn't eat this part if it's poisonous, or how you could prepare it to make it edible.
Right.
And it was really fun because, yeah, it was like watching Food Wars and getting a real detailed explanation by my chef hero, Soma.
I guess the only problem here is that none of this food is real.
And as it goes along, it starts not to focus on the food so much. For me, that's become kind of a drawback because that was what heavily made it really interesting and made it different from other things out there. Now it's more based on what has happened after attempting to find Fallon.
Yeah.
So quickly, the characters in the story are Fallon and Leo's Tuden, and Fallon's a sister, and Leo's is voiced by Damien Haas, and Fallon is voiced by Lisa Ramold. You have Marcel, who is a half-elf magician, voiced by Emily Rudd, Chilchuk Timms, who is voiced by Casey Mongolo, and he's a half-foot. You'll explain that later.
Right.
And then Senshi, a dwarf warrior, voiced by Sung-Hwan Cho, who we've heard in a lot of anime recently.
Yes.
And then within the last episode, you have the addition of Isumi, a tall man woman, tail man, who you'll taller tail.
Well, if you've seen BNA Beast Man, just call it that.
Yes, that's better. Voiced by Laura Stahl.
Yes. And Before you think, is this selling Vox Machina on Prime? No, it's completely different. The manga, yes, was after Vox Machina, but it's completely different from it. It just has a similar theme of a party going on adventures, but that's a lot of the shows now that have this like a D&D fantasy type thing, so don't worry about that. They have their own knockoffs within the show itself with a whole nother group of characters.
And they encounter another party referred to as the Kabru party.
That's it.
And Kabru is voiced by Cedric Williams Jr.
And they're sort of like the more intimidating versions of the main characters. You can just see all their parallels.
And he's also a tallman fighter. So you also have in that group, you have Friendship, voiced by Jenny Yokobori. Mick voiced by Risa Rameau, so she's doing more than one voice. Kira, voiced by Keith Silverstein. You can't miss this as soon as you hear it. Home, voiced by Marin Miller. And Daya, not like the cheese, D-A-Y-A,
No.
voiced by Rebecca Thomas. And they're introduced into the story when we first see them. They are murdered.
Oh,
and then
God.
you see them being murdered multiple times,
And
and
they
you're like,
keep
what's going on?
And they keep coming back, and it's like, oh, it's no big deal. Oh, that's a shame that happened to them. Then they come right back. Then a few minutes, then a couple episodes later, get taken out again. They take their stuff. Then sometime later, they come right back. It's like, okay, does this group stay dead or not? Because they keep coming back. Every time we think they're gone, it's like, oh no, they're part of the cast. Why do you keep killing them off like Kenny?
And then you find out why that happens, and you learn about all these interesting monsters. Some that look like coins, some that look like treasures, some that look like monsters.
Some look like
The dragon is really a giant, huge red dragon.
Yes.
And looking for Fallon. I don't know if we should spoil it or not, so I'm going to say
maybe
spoilers
just okay.
coming a little bit, because they find her, and then that doesn't go so well.
Yeah.
And then
Very
you're
unexpected.
introduced to more characters and additional events that happen that are not a good outcome for them.
Right.
You also find out that Marcel can do dark magic, which really isn't permitted.
Right.
And some people become afraid of her.
And it's a little funny because the audience who never read the manga just saw it as, oh no, it's Full Metal Alchemist all over again. So it didn't even scare anybody.
But it's really still interesting. But for me, the cooking part was really a big factor in me enjoying it. Now that it's not being covered as much, it's a little different experience. It's almost like it's two different anime. It
That's
starts
true.
off that way, and then later on, that takes a back seat. And now every episode, you're not getting food covered. And if
That's
you get it
true.
covered, it's a very, very short amount of time in the episode.
Yeah,
Less
it
than
is.
a minute.
Yes, because there's so much story going on. The food's in the background. Like, half the time they don't even eat. They have to essentially have to tell them, you need to eat. So
But
it becomes a running joke.
What I do like about the story is we're going to refer to it as the Laos's party. Since he's heading it, they learn to be a team. They learn to trust each other. You learn more about each character as the story progresses, and they begin to care for each other and want to keep each other safe, including Chilchuck, who in the beginning is like, I just do this. I'm not a fighter. Don't try to get me to do this. I'm
Like one
not
of
a
those
fighter.
types.
And he even, you find out, cares about them in one episode where he's not as
Abrasive?
distant and abrasive as he appears to be.
True.
But I didn't see it coming. Sometimes you can tell, oh, this is a sundry. But
Yeah,
no.
they didn't use those types of tropes in this anime.
Very true. And you like where their team is going. And the addition of Isumi, I'm not liking it so much right now because it was kind of like she was thrown in, and
Late
you learn
addition.
more about her.
I guess so,
when you
yeah.
watch it, but as you said, it's like they added B and A into the series.
It's true. And I guess they kind of want to add all these different
A
creatures.
shout out to another Netflix original series,
Right.
anime series.
Right. And given that the manga has been out a little bit in like probably a year or so, it's clear that they got inspired by many other anime and other fantasy type anime as well. So they want to kind of bring in as much as possible.
Including Shira and the Princess of Power, the
Yeah,
Netflix
yeah,
version, why I pronounce it that way.
Yeah.
Because this character is
Catra. Yep, that's kind of who she is now, especially with her attitude and everything. So it's pretty hilarious that they did a little shout out to that.
So the animation looks really good.
True, done by Studio Trigger, which is a little weird because Studio Trigger is known for their high action, really crazy, bat crazy animation when they do these high level fighting, and they're not really doing much of that in here. It's really a lot of dialogue, a little more simplistic animation, silly little chibi animation sometimes. And then they'll get to certain episodes and all of a sudden you're seeing the style you know, especially when they're running or fighting the dragon or something. It suddenly the budget goes up $50 and everything's really smooth.
Two more things. One, I think is really meant to be a shout out to Dungeons and Dragons.
I think so, in a way, yeah.
And the second thing is, the first opening really fits the series. Then you get to a second opening, and it's done by the same group that did the opening for Watakoi, Love is Hard for a Talk. If you've seen it, and you should be seeing something come up where it's a really happy, friendly intro that does not fit this series.
Which is a little weird because people are like, oh, I love it. And you got people that have never read the manga like, oh, I love this new little fun intro. The thing is going to match the first one. But then you got people who read the manga that said, you don't know what's coming. This doesn't fit. It feels weird to see this really upbeat, bubbly opening where they're all friendship is magic and everything. Half the time they yell at each other, and then this stuff happens with the characters and there's darkness and stuff. It's like, is this a joke or is this on purpose?
And even if you haven't read the manga, when you see the opening, the first thing is like, what's happening? The second opening,
yeah,
it's like, what's happening? So the first opening, the song is called Sleepwalking Orchestra, performed by Bump of Chicken, which really does fit.
Mm-hmm.
First ending is Party, performed by Ryososhoku Shakai. The second opening we're mentioning of is called Unmei, performed by Sumika, again the same ones who did the opening for Watakoi.
Yes.
And the ending is Kira no Hai, performed by Regal Lily. Now to us, the first two fits, the second two do not.
Right.
That's just our opinion.
Just,
if you like it and you think it fits, fantastic.
It's great,
and
yeah.
it's not a bad opening. That's not the
it is
point.
fun.
The song sounds good and it's fun. It just does not fit the sound.
Yeah, that's all. If it were like a separate little music video, not in front of the series, it's perfectly fine as is on its own.
So if you've seen Delicious in Dungeon, let us know what you think in the comments. If you haven't, it's available exclusively on Netflix to watch. Tell us what you like, whom are your favorite characters. Do you like the turn that is taken? Do you miss the cooking as much as I do? Let us know what you think.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and videos for anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
And thank you so much for joining us, subscribing, and sharing our videos. It really helps out our channel a lot. And as always, don't forget, you are special.
So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.